Good day, ladies. I trust that you've had a wonderful day. Today we're going to continue with our journey through Ruth, and we're going to look at Ruth chapter 1, verses 6 to 22. When Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, she and her daughters-in-law got ready to return home. With her two daughters-in-law, she left the place that she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her two daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant each of you rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them goodbye, and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to my sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me." At this they wept aloud again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and to her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go back with her, she stopped urging her. So the two women went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the woman explained, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth, the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. After experiencing famine and funerals, as Rick Kress from the Book of God in Everyday Life puts it, Naomi decides to return to Judah when hearing that the famine has ended. Verse 6 says in the original text that she might return, she being singular. Naomi was not planning on taking her daughters-in-law back with her. Naomi was being realistic in asking her daughters-in-law to return to their families, as the likelihood that they would ever remarry by staying with her was almost impossible. In verse 7, we read that the daughters-in-law were with her, and she was most probably thinking these two Moabite women would not be welcome in Judah, as well as that added stigma that she would carry, bringing the woman home with her after having left with her husband and two sons when there was famine in the land. It is possible that Naomi and her husband were seen as faithless by leaving Judah in the first place. Naomi had all intention of going back alone and spoke a blessing over the two ladies by saying, "May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt kindly with me." It is clear that Naomi could still refer to Yahweh in a positive light, although her heart was full of bitterness due to her losses. This made me think of how often what I know to be true about God is not what I'm experiencing in my heart. And I'm sure that you can identify with that too, when you don't see God's hand in your situation. The fact that the two women wept when Naomi said this is evident that there was some affection between Naomi and her daughters-in-law, and that they displayed loyalty towards her in being willing to return with her. It is possible that despite all the loss that these three women had been through, that Naomi had been a vessel of God's love and truth to them. There is something about being so rooted in God and His goodness that despite whatever we go through, we are still able to display His goodness, even if we feel that we are not experiencing it, or that we are unable to see His goodness in our current situation. No matter what your circumstances, you can always display God's love to others. Perhaps you want to pause here and ask the Lord, how can you display God's kindness and His love to somebody in this week to come? Going back to Naomi's realism regarding her daughters-in-laws ever getting married again if they stayed with her, we see that it was actually bitterness towards God, and she could only see that hopelessness awaited these two women. The only way that they would be able to remarry was by going back home to their respective families. Naomi said that she could not bear any more sons, and no man from Judah would marry a Moabite woman. From a cultural perspective, in this time, life without a husband was hopeless. Caroline Custis James, in her book The Gospel of Ruth, explains that the Hebrew word for widow is almanah, and it comes from the root word alam, which means unable to speak. This cemented a widow's low rank in the ancient patriarchal culture, says Caroline. Orpah took this to heart and returned home to her family. But Ruth was insistent on going with Naomi. Ruth's decision not only reinforces her commitment to travel with Naomi but to a new place, but it also reinforces her desire to change her religious identity. Your people, my people. Your God, my God. All that Ruth had to go on regarding her knowledge of God was Naomi's character and life as a testimony. It is quite possible that Naomi had displayed true love and faith over the years to these two women. William J. Tom says, "Be careful how you live. You may be the only Bible someone ever reads." Now, I'm sure that you've heard that quote in many different sermons, and there is something deeply profound in these words. And no doubt Naomi's life created a desire in Ruth to make Naomi's God her God. Once Naomi and Ruth had arrived back in Judah, the people were asking, "Is this Naomi?" I would assume leaving Judah, the death of your husbands and 2 sons, daughters-in-law who could not have children, living among enemies of Israel, and the journey home would have taken its toll on Naomi's physical and spiritual appearance. In response, Naomi said, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for God has dealt bitterly with me." Naomi means delightful and pleasant, but Mara means bitterness. At this point, Naomi was only thinking of herself. She did not acknowledge Ruth. She did not acknowledge that she had the love of God and the love of Ruth. Isn't it strange how in our humanity we often only see the negative and not the positive? I am sure that if we had to take a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle and write the things that are negative on the one side and the things that are positive in our life on the other side, that our thankful and positive list would be longer. In saying this, though, we acknowledge wholeheartedly the pain and loss that Naomi went through. And I'm sure that there are some ladies watching this video right now who have experienced some great loss. And I know some ladies that have experienced the loss of a husband and the loss of children. I'm sure that you don't feel that God's goodness is evident or visible in your life, and that you are experiencing much pain. but I'm also sure that each one of us can testify to knowing God's goodness. Finally, in God's kindness and mercy, verse 22 tells us that Naomi and Ruth returned home at the beginning of the barley harvest, which would mean provision for them. For now, the story of Naomi is bitter, but in the weeks to come, we will explore God's providence in both Naomi and Ruth's lives. I pray that you have a wonderful week, and we're looking forward to seeing you again next week.